You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from September 6th, 2023. It is the fallout from All Out 2023. Of course, All Out took place this past Sunday at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. And of course, All Out, as I've stated on the All Out review, All Out was, at the end of the day, a statement show. It was a statement show in a sense that it showed the audience that they could literally survive without CM Punk. For those of you that have been watching AEW since the beginning, you've known that they have survived time and time again, especially when it comes to these situations. AEW will survive with or without CM Punk. Period. And this Dynamite, this was the fallout from All Out. And what are my thoughts on this Dynamite? I thoroughly enjoyed this episode of Dynamite. If anything, I enjoyed it more than I did this week. Dynamite, let's be realistic. These past couple of months, Dynamite has really been a hit or miss show. You know, we'd have great segments all the time, but, you know, sometimes the booking decisions would be kind of a little bit off, and we'd barely get any build for these pay-per-views. And the thing about it is we now have a pay-per-view happening October 1st in Seattle, which is, of course, WrestleDream. And I don't want to sit here and say that we haven't gotten any build, but I feel like they're starting to spearhead stories so we can get that build for WrestleDream. And, of course, we had two amazing segments. We had one segment with Samoa Joe and MJF, which is a feud that, honestly, it's different, but I like that. You know, different is what we really need when it comes to a guy like MJF, because in a lot of MJF's feuds, even though I think they're great, they started to become a little bit repetitive, and that all changed ever since the Adam Cole story came into play. But we had an amazing Samoa Joe and MJF segment. We had an amazing Swerve Strickland and Hangman segment. And if you guys think that, you know, Swerve Strickland should not be a main eventer after this segment, clearly you are watching the wrong show. Swerve Strickland, after this, solidified himself as a top-tier player, at least for the AEW World Championship, because this guy is a superstar in the making. I've been saying this ever since I first laid my eyes on Swerve Strickland when he was in NXT and when he was Isaiah Swerve Scott. He is a fucking superstar. He will be a world champion someday, and this promo that he cut in front of Hangman Page clearly shows that. We had a couple matches on the show as well, of course. We had Jon Moxley defending his newly won international championship against AR Fox. Kris Statlander defended her TBS championship against Emi Sakura. We had Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara take on Aussie Open, which was a pretty good match. Great teamwork, and they won the match, but there's still a little bit of tension going on. We have the AEW Grand Slam Tournament kicking off on this show as well, which I will be talking about the brackets for that tournament. And, of course, the winner will go on to face MJF for the AEW World Championship at Grand Slam. We had Roderick Strong versus Trent Beretta, and we also had Darby Allin versus Nick Wayne in the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam Tournament in the main event, which was a very, very, very good match, to say the least. But overall, I really enjoyed Dynamite. They really, spearheaded new stories, and, they really kind of, started to lay the foundation, in my opinion, of what AEW is really going to be like without CM Punk in the future. And I really think that they're showing that really, really, really well. One thing that I've always stated is that, even with CM Punk gone, they literally have a whole fucking cast of wrestlers that can literally fill a main event scene. You got Hangman Page, MJF, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, Ricky Starks, Swerve Strickland, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, to say the fucking least. There's a lot that can fill the void, of CM Punk. Plus, you also got guys like possibly Adam Copeland coming in, that being Edge, possibly joining AEW, Mercedes Martinez, I said Mercedes Martinez. Jesus Christ. Mercedes Moné. I dead-ass confused Mercedes Martinez with Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné possibly coming into AEW. Will Ospreay possibly signing with the company. You name it. There's a lot going on in AEW. Yes, is it a down period right now? Absolutely, of course. Ticket sales have been going down lately. Look at those Grand Slam numbers. They're not really that good. But, when it comes to a creative sense, I think AEW has a lot of the tools, especially when it comes to the talent. They have all the tools they need to succeed at the end of the day. We're just gonna have to wait and see what they do at the end of the day. But let's go ahead and talk about AEW Dynamite. Let's kick off the show. The show kicks off with Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy, of course, coming off an amazing main event at All Out against Jon Moxley. And I said this at the All Out review, but if you are one of those people that have been still doubting, Orange Cassidy, clearly you're not a wrestling fan at the end of the day. Orange Cassidy can wrestle, and Orange Cassidy proved that he can be a main eventer just by that match he had with Jon Moxley at All Out. He's in the ring. We get a bunch of thank you Orange chants by the crowd. He says, he says thank you, that being Orange Cassidy. And he says, so they told me to stay home. And he says that in the most casually way possible because, of course, he's freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. But I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Title or no title, I will be here every single week because I am freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. And I do not have a catchphrase. Orange Cassidy then leaves. The crowd is up on their feet for Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy is more over than he has ever been in his entire career. And then he walks up the ramp and Jon Moxley's music plays. So Moxley comes out ready to defend his international championship. And in his first title defense, he is going to wrestle AR Fox. The international championship. Possibly AEW's best mid-card championship. Everybody talks about the TNT title, but even though the TNT title is not in shambles like it was a couple of months ago, primarily due to the fact that Christian Cage is holding the belt, even though he's not the actual champion, the international championship is really the workhorse title in AEW. That is really the real mid-card championship, just by the match that we saw at All Out this past Sunday. But we had Jon Moxley versus AR Fox in the opening match. Overall, it was not a bad match whatsoever. I thoroughly enjoyed this match for what it was, and of course, the outcome was obvious. Jon Moxley was going to get the win. AR Fox goes for the enziguri. Fox goes after Mox. We get a series of chops by Mox in the corner, but then we get repeated right hands. Fox ends up going for a right hand of his own. We then get a springboard dropkick by Fox, but then Fox runs over the top rope to the outside. Later on, Moxley is in the ring. Mox hits a boot on AR Fox and then throws down Fox. Once we're on the apron, Moxley scratches the back of AR Fox. We get a kick by Fox, followed by Dax escaping with the pile driver attempt, but then he goes for the DDT. We get a cover into near fall. Fox gets sent to the barricade, and then he gets thrown over the crowd. Once we're back in commercial break, Moxley's in control. We get a series of kicks to the chest of AR Fox, but then Fox fights back and hits an enziguri. We get a clothesline, no-sold by Mr. Jon Moxley. Moxley ends up flipping him off, and then we get a kick by Fox. Fox hits a cutter, but then he gets caught in a choke. But then what happens is Fox takes him to the corner. Fox goes for the cutter, but then we get a cover by Fox and a kick out. After that, Fox is on the apron. He boots the head of Mox on the outside, but then Fox goes for a shooting star on the outside on Moxley. He goes to the top. Moxley's in the ring. He hits a 450 splash. We get a cover and a kick out. Moxley rolls him over, and then he applies the double wrist lock. Then he drives his elbows on AR Fox, but then Moxley runs into an enziguri. Then he runs into the King Kong Lariat, or I should say, who was it? AR Fox runs into the King Kong Lariat. Mox ends up hitting the Death Rider, and we get a cover, and Moxley retains the International Championship. After that, Darby is in the ring. He comes in, and he shakes the hand of AR Fox, man. It's so funny. He's immediately like in the good graces of AR Fox after a couple of weeks ago, where AR Fox basically joined the Mogul Embassy only for him to like show up at the Buddy Wayne Academy and literally beat the shit with Swerve, beat the shit out of Nick Wayne, only for Swerve to turn on AR Fox. Honestly, AR Fox and the Mogul Embassy, in my opinion, was kind of a missed opportunity. That's just my opinion on things, but I feel like there was a little bit more potential we could have seen with him. But AR Fox is now supposedly a babyface. But what happens is Christian comes in, And he says, finding out that his father used to be a pro wrestler, he watched his stuff and he owes an apology. He was worse than I thought. Damn, Christian Cage and fathers, man. Bro, do not bring your father near Christian Cage. I'm telling you that right now. If I was your true mentor, you should be looking at a champion. See you around, Nick. And say hi to your mom for me. Christian Cage, you son of a bitch. So what the fuck is going to be happening there? Moving on. We got Kris Statlander taking on Emi Sakura for the TBS Championship. This was a pretty good match, to say the least. All over Twitter, everybody's fucking talking about Emi Sakura. Me, personally, I could give less of a shit. I know there's a lot of very passionate Joshi fans out there, but I could give less of a shit. That's just my opinion. But I will say, this was a very good match, and I've always thought of Emi Sakura as a great professional wrestler. We got a roll-up by Sakura. We get a double underhook tiger driver. We get a cover and a kick-out. We then get a chop by Sakura, but then Statlander is on the apron. We get a crossbody by Sakura, taking both women down. Statlander is on the steel steps, but then Sakura hits the running crossbody on the steel steps, which is fucking crazy. We get a cover and a kick-out. We get a chop by Statlander and then a chop by Sakura, but then both women go for a series of chop exchanges. After that, we get a back elbow by Emi Sakura. Then she goes for the lariat. We get a clothesline by Sakura and followed by a roundhouse kick. Both women knock each other down with a double clothesline. Statlander is on the apron, and then she hits the elbow drop over the top rope in the ring. We get the rolling elbow missed, but then Statlander catches Emi Sakura. Sakura reverses and then drops Statlander down. Then she goes for the double underhook, but then she hits the backbreaker. We get a cover and a near fall. Sakura goes to the second rope, but then Statlander gets Sakura up on her shoulder. She drops her down, and then she goes for the discus lariat and ends up hitting the Wednesday Night Fever. We get a cover, and Kris Statlander wins the match and retains the TBS Championship. Now, the question that I have to ask is, what are the further plans for Kris Statlander? Like, I know there's a lot of rumors on Jade Cargill right now, and I do believe Jade Cargill is on her way back. I am not sure, but could Jade Cargill come back and challenge Kris Statlander to a match? Who knows? But if you look at it from a kayfabe perspective, that would make pretty much totally sense. But we're going to have to wait and see. But I don't want to say that there's a lack of direction with Kris Statlander, but I feel like there is a lack of direction with Kris Statlander. I mean, like, she's just there defending her title week by week by week. That is great, but we got to put her in some storylines that actually matter, in my opinion. That's just my thing. After that, we get a very well-produced video package on Roderick Strong and his history. He talks about his parents. His parents did not know how to be parents, and they were wrapped in their own problems. His dad with alcoholism, and his mother, of course, dealt with drug issues. It got so bad that his sister left, and he had to take care of himself. Professional wrestling gave him new life. And when people say wrestling is just a business, it isn't a business to him. To him, professional wrestling is everything. But Adam knew that. He grew up alone, and he will win this Grand Slam tournament alone, and it starts tonight. Great backstory on Roderick Strong, man. Roderick Strong, say what you want about the guy. Maybe his character to you may be a little bit goofy, and he does sound like a crazy ex-girlfriend. But let's be honest with ourselves. Look, Roderick Strong is not the best promo. We know that. Roderick Strong's strengths is in the ring. But this fucking storyline with Adam Cole and MJF has been fucking phenomenal. And I love the fact that Roderick Strong has a big prominent role in this whole scenario, which is great to see. You love to see it. After that, we get Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara taking on the Aussie Open. Of course, last week, Jericho and Sammy Guevara had a great one-on-one segment. Originally, they all thought things were good, but then they started to go, the opposite route and then started arguing. And then that led to this match right over here. Of course, Chris Jericho came off a loss to Will Ospreay at Allin, and now Chris Jericho is at odds, and it looks like Jericho and Sammy are on the same page, but at the same time, there'd be moments that Jericho and Sammy are not on the same page. So there's a lot of storytelling in this match, but let's go through it. Jericho and Davis start. We get repeated chops by Jericho, followed by a shoulder tackle. By the way, during this match, you can tell Aussie Open is over because the crowd was doing the oi, 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 Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Yeah, take that, Grayson Waller. Aussie Open is more over than you. We got a shoulder tackle by Davis. We got a chop by Davis. We get a bunch of meat chants by the crowd. Yes, meat chants. We've seen that this past Sunday at All Out in Chicago with, of course, the Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs match. So it looks like meat chants are going to be a common occurrence on AEW shows down the line. After that, Jericho pushes Davis in the corner. Sammy tags in. We get a chop by Sammy, and then we get a double shoulder tackle by Sammy and Jericho. Then they do the La Sex Gods pose, that pose that they have been doing since the beginning of Dynamite. Then we get a cartwheel double clothesline by Mark Davis. Then he drops Sammy face first to the top turnbuckle, and then Fletcher tags in. He takes down Sammy. Then Sammy and Fletcher exchange chops. We get a drop kick by Sammy. Sammy is in control. He tags in Jericho. Both men pick up Fletcher, but then he ends up hitting a delayed vertical suplex. Or I should say both men hit a delayed vertical suplex, but they had Fletcher up for a long-ass time. Like a long-ass time. I don't know if it's the same amount of time in which, Bandito would pick up a guy for a delayed vertical suplex, but that shit looked fucking impressive. The crowd is up on their feet for how long they've held up Fletcher. Once we're back in commercial break, Aussie Open is in control. Sammy lands on his feet. He tags Jericho. We get repeated shots by Jericho, and we get a series of shoulder tackles. Jericho gets taken to the apron. Jericho goes to the top, hits the double axe handle, but then gets caught. Jericho then ducks Aussie Open. They set up the shoulder shot, or the double shot, I should say. But then Sammy at the same time hits the cutter. Jericho then ends up hitting the codebreaker, but then we get a cover by Jericho and a near fall. We get a chop by Jericho, but then Fletcher gets taken on the apron. Jericho goes for a dropkick, but then Sammy is in the center of the ring. Sammy, after that, goes for the tornado over the top rope on the outside. Jericho goes for a crossbody, but he accidentally hits Sammy Guevara, the first of many times. Or I shouldn't say many times. He accidentally hit Sammy twice in this match. Both members of Aussie Open pick each man up, and they both knock each other down by running around the ring and knocking each other down on their backs. They collide with one another. Once we're back into the ring, we get a roundhouse kick by Fletcher, and then they go for the Aussie Arrow. We get a cover by Davis and a near fall. Both members of Aussie Open send Jericho into the corner. Sammy comes in. Davis runs into the Spanish Fly, but then Jericho catches Fletcher for the walls, but then Fletcher then escapes. We then get the thrust kick by Fletcher, and then we get a kick into the corner by Fletcher. Then he ends up hitting a brainbuster. We get a cover and a kick out, but then we get a right hand by Fletcher, followed by a kick by Jericho. Jericho, once again, for the second time in this match, accidentally kicks or takes out Sammy Guevara. We get a roll-up by Fletcher, and we get a cover and a near fall. Jericho ends up hitting the Judas effect, and we get a cover, and Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho get the win. After that, Sammy's in the ring. He does not look happy after the two different times that there was miscommunication in the match. After that, Jericho gets his hand raised, and he wants to raise Sammy's hand, but what happens is Sammy refuses, and he pushes Jericho multiple times. Both men push one another to the point where security comes in, and then Sammy ends up walking off, and he walks through the crowd. Overall, aside from the match itself, the match told a story. And the story was, of course, and I hate saying this, but could Sammy and Jericho coexist? We all know that they're tight, but at the same time, there's always miscommunication and there's issues. But the real story is that clearly AEW is on the verge of breaking up Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. There are many times where they almost tried that, but at the same time, at the end of the day, Sammy ended up going back to Chris Jericho. Now, we're in a situation in which Sammy could be on the verge of finally kind of breaking out on his own. And I think that is what Sammy Guevara really needs if he wants to push his career forward. And I think he's doing that very well. I think Sammy, if they want to really make Sammy a big star, they really need to bring him out on his own. Jericho has done enough for Sammy Guevara. I think it's time for Sammy to really go out on his own and step up. But I think a feud with Jericho and a one-on-one match between Sammy and Jericho would definitely be the right way to go about things. Now, who's going to turn on who? It's going to be very interesting. Sammy, is at odds with Jericho. Jericho could possibly be the one to turn. Who knows? But this feud is definitely interesting. And again, could we see a match further down the line, maybe at WrestleDream? Who knows? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But yeah, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, even though they won the match, they are still not on the same page. Moving on. We got an amazing segment with the AEW World Champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Of course, this is coming off of their successful title defense of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships this past Sunday at All Out against, of all people, Dark Order, which was one of the most random opponents you could possibly have, in my opinion. Indianapolis, Indiana. The Devil has arrived in Hoosier Country. He lived right here in Indiana, where he tried to make in the independence, and he asks Indiana, "Who's your daddy?" And as you know, he and his brochacho successfully defended their ROH tag team titles. And when he went into the back, he was greeted in the back by that mark, Tony Khan, and told that he needed to wrestle September 20th at Grand Slam. That is the home state of the Devil. Start spreading news, because MJF is coming back to New York, New York. And when he said start spreading news, he was literally singing. He was like, "So start spreading news." That was fucking awesome. You could tell this guy is like literally entertaining at anything he fucking does. Whoever wins this Grand Slam tournament will learn the hard way that nobody is on the level of the Devil. But there is one person that needs to be taught a certain lesson. And we get a series of Joe chants by the crowd. Samoa Joe comes out, and this is the same guy that pushed MJF as MJF was walking up the ramp this past Sunday at All Out. And it was very reminiscent to when Samoa Joe was the NXT champion. And, of course, little MJF was a freaking security guard. And while Samoa Joe was on his way to the ring, he pushed a random security guard, that security guard being a young Maxwell Jacob Friedman. What happens? Joe was like, "Pardon the interruption." He was in the back, and he heard him pissing vinegar in his voice, and he realized something was going on, and he wanted to give himself a front row seat and make sure what was about to be said. But he is out here. You're out here. What seems to be the problem, kid? And this was a common question asked to MJF multiple times in this promo. MJF says that this might be embarrassing for him, and he can only imagine why he came out here so fast is because he confuses entrance music for an ice cream truck. And then Joe then replies, and this was a funny-ass line. Joe then replies, the last time he had anything to do with an ice cream truck was him being busy being the biggest star on the other company's network. Yes, that is very much true. If you guys do not know, Samoa Joe played one of the characters in the Twisted Metal series, and that is on Peacock. So that was pretty funny, and that was a pretty funny line. Now, Max, he's out here because of genuine concern, because he seems upset. So he will poach the question and ask one more time. What is the problem, kid? And MJF says, called him kid twice. Real creative. You know what's really funny about him? He's a pretty creative guy himself. Who wants to hear MJF get a little creative up in here? Here, hey, everybody, look. It's Pillsbury Joe Boy. Wait. No, that's Samoa Joe. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Mecha High, your Schmeckles Tiny Joe. And then Joe replies, of course, and he says the crowd chants Tiny Dick. And you know what? That's an interesting observation, because especially coming from a guy whose breast is still postponed because a ribeye had a lack of stuff to work with, says Joe. After that, it seems to be hard comprehending what is going on. And the time he spends here with all these mouth breathers probably made him that stupid. So he will ask him again, what is your problem, kid? MJF says, you call me one more kid, or call me one more kid. What the fuck? My notes are shit. You call me kid one more time, I will knock your teeth down your throat. MJF says, that's how you really want me to react. But I want to skip the line but I'm sorry, there's a whole tournament, and if you want to wrestle the champion, you're going to have to go through that whole tournament. And maybe you would have, bit back when I was a kid. Maybe I would have bit back when I was a kid. And if anybody knows what, it was like as a kid, it's him. To coin a phrase by his brochacho, Adam Cole. Who's ready for story time with MJF, baby? Back when he was 19 and he had a tryout with the WWE, as you people imagined, he knocked it out of the park because he was that damn good. Then he got pulled to the side, and you remember a guy named William Regal, and I don't know why that was necessary. Of all things, look, I don't mind taking shots at WWE, but taking shots at a guy like William Regal, bro, William Regal, in my opinion, is like so respected. Like, I didn't think that was necessary. That's just my opinion, at least. And we know the story. He was too young, and he told him to send him an Evo every month, but he ended up blowing him off. And we get a bunch of he fucked up chants by the crowd. And he then knocked his British ass out and sent his ass packing back to NXT where he belongs. And funny enough, if you play your cards right, you're next. Later on, he was informed of an opportunity to be a security guard, and he will be walking with a wrestling legend, somebody he has studied, and he would meet the most diabolical and dangerous monster, that being the great Samoa Joe. It's true. He might, be the worst, but he's great. But what did you do? You decided to take a 19-year-old kid who was just trying to do his job, and you shoved him into a brick wall, and you laughed. Let's be honest, Joe. I know why you did that. He knows how scumbags think because he's their scumbag. Yeah, MJF is our scumbag. He did it because he knew he could get away with it, but, of course, right now he isn't a kid anymore. He's a fully grown man. He is a generational talent. He is the AEW World Champion. He is the best wrestler on God's green earth and the man that headlined the most historic pay-per-view of all time. He is MJF. So, Joey, if I were you, I'd stay out of my way or else I am going to kill you. Max is going to kill you, Chance, after that by the crowd. And do you know why, Joe? It's because my name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and I'm better than you, and you know it. Joe then replies, that was a point beautifully made, but there is one small problem. He would just think that you would just think that he would be just a kid, or he thought of him in any sense. He didn't think of him as a kid when he pushed him. And you know what I thought of you? I didn't think you were a kid. I just thought you were a little bitch, says Samoa Joe. And then MJF got so pissed he slaps Joe, but it was one of the weaker slaps I've ever seen in any wrestling show or any wrestling segment, to say the least. Joe then says, this is him trying to provoke you, but I'm not going to take your bait. I will go through this tournament, and then I will come for you. Until, champ, have a nice day. And then MJF leaves. What happens is, as soon as MJF is about to leave, Joe knocks the rope and beats down MJF. Joe has the AEW title and holds it up. But then MJF is from behind, ends up hitting a low blow in the best way that MJF can. After that, he bites the head of Samoa Joe and goes for repeated stomps on Joe into the corner. But then MJF runs into a Uranagi by Joe in the corner. After that, Joe takes MJF up for the Muscle Buster, but Adam Cole immediately runs into the ring. Think about this. Adam Cole immediately runs to the ring. Think about this, because a lot of people pointed this out on social media because there is layers to the story. A lot of people say AEW doesn't tell stories. Clearly, this was storytelling at its finest. And keep that in mind. Adam Cole immediately runs to the ring for the aid of MJF. Joe is on the stage laughing at MJF. MJF is selling his neck just like he did at All Out, and if anything, his neck is way worse than it was at All Out. Joe has the mic, and he says, next time, if you try to leave it attached, I'll try to leave it attached, but I can't guarantee anything. I'm going to tear you to pieces the next time you get in front of me. Bitch! That should be a shirt. MJF then is getting carried up the ramp, and Adam Cole's there to the aid of MJF. Roderick Strong out of nowhere screams, Adam! I swear that's going to become a meme. He repeatedly screams Adam's name. Strong comes out with the kingdom, and he is pissed. He's pissed that Adam Cole just came to the aid of MJF immediately and just flat out, just balls to the wall, just went straight for MJF. Now, if you guys do not remember, after I think it was the Samoa Joe and Roderick Strong match, I believe it was one of the first episodes of Collision, Roderick Strong, after the match, got beat to shit by Samoa Joe. And Adam Cole, right after the beating, after the beating, Adam Cole then comes down. This is right before they were going to go off the air. Adam Cole, in this case, immediately goes for MJF while he was getting beat to shit by Samoa Joe. He didn't do the same thing for Roderick Strong. See the layers in the story? That was phenomenal storytelling at its finest. So they kind of merged different stories together all in one segment, which I really, really, really like. For those that say AEW does not tell stories, clearly are watching the wrong show at the end of the day. But we then have Roderick Strong versus Trent Beretta in the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam Tournament. This was a pretty good match at the end of the day. It was not a bad match whatsoever. First off, let's look at the brackets for this Grand Slam Tournament. And the brackets are as follows. Darby Allin versus Nick Wayne. Roderick Strong taking on Trent Beretta. Penta El Zero Miedo versus Jay Lethal on Rampage. Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy on Rampage. And then, of course, the winners of those particular matches will meet their opponent in their respective corners of the match. So they will meet up over there. And then we got Roderick Strong taking on Trent Beretta in this current match right now. So Roderick Strong and Trent Beretta in the quarterfinals of the tournament, and that was that. But overall, what are my thoughts on this match? This match was pretty good. It showed Roderick Strong's strengths. Again, his strengths are more in the ring than promo. But when it comes to him in this whole story, I think this is the best possible position that Roderick Strong could even be in. But both men lock up. We get a side headlock by Strong on Trent Beretta. Both lock up again. Strong goes for a takedown, and then Strong transitions into a front face lock. And then after that, we get a shoulder tackle by Strong. After that, Strong runs into the Meteora by Trent, but then we get a chop by Strong, followed by repeated chops by Strong, and then by Trent. We then get a backbreaker by Strong, but then Trent goes for the backdrop. And then Trent targets the neck of Strong, but then Strong goes to the outside. Trent gets sent to the ring post head first. After that, Strong gets hit on with a side slam on Trent on the apron. Once we're back from commercial break, Strong picks up Trent, but then Trent escapes. Trent ends up going for a German, then another German. He tries to go for the half and half, and then Trent hits the Death Valley driver. And then Trent goes for the pile driver. But after that, Strong drops Trent, and then Strong goes for the running boot. We get a cover by Strong and a near fall. Trent gets taken to the top. Then he tries to fight off Strong, but then Strong picks up Trent. Trent escapes. Trent goes for the Hurricane Rana, but then Strong goes for the roll-up. And then we get a roll-up by Trent and a kick-out, but then Trent ends up going for the Enziguri. After the Enziguri, I fucking missed my notes. Trent goes for the half and half, but then Trent misses the pile driver, but then we get a cover by Trent and a kick-out. After that, Trent picks up Strong. Strong grabs the top rope. We then get the jumping knee strike, and then we get the end of Heartache by Roderick Strong, and we get a cover, and Roderick Strong gets the win in this Grand Slam Tournament quarterfinal match. Great match nonetheless. It was pretty much expected that Roderick Strong was going to get the win. Now, what's very interesting is that we got this current feud happening with MJF and Samoa Joe. This tournament can go either two ways. Either Samoa Joe gets the win in this whole tournament, because we all know Roderick Strong, it's pretty obvious. Roderick Strong and Samoa Joe are probably going to go to the finals. Or we could possibly see a scenario which sees Roderick Strong having the match cost and he loses his semifinal match. We do not know, but my prediction for the finals is I clearly see Samoa Joe wrestling Roderick Strong in the finals of this tournament. But what's very interesting is that this whole tournament can go either two ways. Either this is Roderick Strong versus MJF at Grand Slam, or Samoa Joe versus MJF at Grand Slam. And me personally, even though I think Grand Slam is a big show, you have a pay-per-view October 1st. And you have a month to build that card. And I think, in my opinion, the perfect main event for a show like WrestleDream is clearly MJF versus Samoa Joe. It's really obvious because, again, are you more focused on a big stadium show like Grand Slam, which you know you're not selling a lot of tickets to? Or are you more focused on a show that people are going to pay their hard-earned money for? Me personally, if I was a promoter, I'd focus on the show that people are buying. And me personally, I would have much rather see Samoa Joe versus MJF at WrestleDream, and then you can do Roderick Strong versus MJF. Could that sound, does that on paper, does that sound like a weak main event for a show like Grand Slam? Absolutely. But the story is there, and people crave stories, and the story is right over there. So you can elevate the story when it comes to Roderick Strong and MJF, and then you can move on to MJF versus Samoa Joe at WrestleDream. That's my personal opinion. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I could easily come on here and say I like the unpredictability here, but AEW could go either way when it comes to these types of these types of scenarios when it comes to this type of tournament. Moving on. We got Toni Storm in a backstage interview. She talks about last week during All Out, she took the spray paint, and she was asked what is going through her head. Toni says that she can't remember. She is going fucking crazy. We must look forward. Next week, there will be a 4-way eliminator match, and they will go on and face Saraya at Grand Slam. And she says that Renee is nosy, and if you're good, next week she will go into a sneak peek in her life. Until then, chin up, tits out, and watch for the shoe. She leaves and throws the shoe like she usually does at Renee Paquette. I love this new Toni Storm character. I think this is the type of direction that Toni Storm needs. I think this is the direction. This is what Toni Storm has needed for a while, ever since joining the company. And honestly, I think it's working out very well to her advantage. And I think she could possibly end up as one of the top women in the women's division at the end of the day. This stuff is so fucking entertaining to watch. That's just my opinion. Moving on. We got the Hangman Page segments. This was probably one of the best things on the entire show. Hangman says it's been a hell of a weekend. You know, he went to Google for 5 straight minutes and he booked a flight and he won a battle royal and won the battle royal for charity. And he thanks AEW to whoop ass and send money to children. And of course, he turns to the future. Then what happens? Swerve Strickland comes out. And Prince Nana comes out with him. Of course, Prince Nana with the dance. I swear to God, that shit's going to get so over, bro. I even tweeted it out. I want to dance like Prince Nana. And Prince Nana on Twitter actually retweeted my tweet. He says, show some respect for Swerve Strickland. And then Swerve gets the mic. He says, you know, being in a coffin for 2 weeks, you get clarity. You get perspective on things. Your career, everybody who's involved. The first people he thought about was you, Hangman. Clearly, charity, really? You're doing charity? What are you, a mascot for AEW, says Swerve? You're doing charity for Chicago, full of juvenile delinquents. That will just flunk out of school. And on top of that, you're doing that on the pre-show instead of the main card. I would be ashamed of you. When AEW started you, Hangman, you were the cornerstone. You were handpicked to be the franchise player. And you became a tag team champion to a world champion, leading up to Allin. And attendance off of his back. Now he's looking at him at pre-shows or the fact that he just doesn't want it anymore. He hasn't gotten any new gear in a year or merchandise in almost a year. You got a whole new contract extension. You've been eating good. And it's been showing. And he points at his belly. You know, do you even have title matches anymore? What's going on? You took a back seat to the elite because you've gotten comfortable. Opportunity after opportunity, and you've been handed everything on a silver platter. If I had gotten what you've gotten, I would have been the first black AEW champion by now, says Swerve. And then after that, later on, he says, option A. He gives him 2 options. Option A, you ride off into the sunset and let that contract fizzle out next to his career. And I don't care where it is, but let me take that slot that you do not want, clearly, and I will turn AEW into whose house? Swerve's house. Option B, whatever you have to do, that fire, that confidence, show me and show these people and me what cowboy shit is all about. Or they can do this. Fight me for this spot, but I got a warning. I have no regard for anybody, and I will walk you like a dog. Either way, you know, I will come for that spot, and that you act like you do not even want. The spot that you do not even want. Hangman then immediately interrupts and says, I am done with this shit right now. I do not need this shit right now. And then he walks away. Swerve then just continues to spew on the microphone. And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot. It's a shame, Hangman, while Hangman is walking up the ramp. It's a shame that your wife and kids will see this and they will see you walking away from your moral responsibilities. And then Hangman comes back. He goes after Swerve, but Brian Cage attacks him from behind and he ends up hitting the drill claw. And that was the segment. Overall, man, how was this segment? This is the type of feud that I've been wanting in AEW, man. It's in a way, these are the types of feuds that I like to call blood feuds. Just grudge feuds that with 2 guys that just do not they just can't stand each other. But this was in a way a little bit different. This shit kind of reminded me of something that you would see in early AEW in 2019. It's no secret that Swerve is destined to be a main event player. I think it's obvious to all of us that Swerve can easily be a main event guy. This promo right here proves that 110%. And I think a feud with Hangman Page could literally be the shot in the arm that Swerve Strickland has needed ever since joining the company last year. Again, that one line, if I would have gotten the opportunities that you have gotten, I'd be the first black AEW world champion right now. You know, some people could easily say that, you know, that's just a line. But honestly, I think he's 100% telling the truth. Again, Swerve Strickland at the end of the day is a total fucking package. He's got the look, he's got the physique, he's got the charisma, he's got the promo skills. Heck, he has the ability to really cross over into mainstream. I mean, he has a rapping career, for fuck's sakes. This guy is the total fucking package, and if honestly you do not see Swerve as a main event star, I do not know what you're watching. Clearly Swerve is that guy, and he can be such a good heel when he needs to be. He is that damn good. And this whole promo with Hangman Page took Hangman Page to an emotional level that he really hasn't gotten in a while. And this promo and this whole feud that we're eventually going to be seeing in the next couple of months is really going to not only elevate Hangman Page further on to where he needs to be, but it's also going to put Swerve in a position that he really needs to be and really solidify Swerve Strickland as, hey, I can hang with all of you. I can hang with all of you, and I deserve to be in the spot that you clearly do not want to be. That's basically the whole moral of the story when it comes to Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page. This is the type of feud that I want to see in AEW, clearly. And this is the type of shit that I've been clamoring for. I mean, we kind of got that with Hangman Page and Jon Moxley, but I feel like this is very different. This is clearly very different, and it's something that I'm 100% here for. Will we see a series of matches between both men? Absolutely. But we're going to have to wait and see what goes on, and clearly we're going to be seeing this match further on down the line. And we're actually going to be getting Brian Cage versus Hangman Page next week on Dynamite. I believe it's their third match, so that's going to be great to see. This was nothing but pure perfection. Everything about this was on point and top-notch. Moving on, we got the main event. We got Darby Allin taking on his protege, Nick Wayne. This is a pretty good match, man. Pretty good main event. It's no secret Nick Wayne is very popular amongst the hardcore fan base, and he's pretty popular among the independents. I have had the honor to watch Nick Wayne live. He's that damn fucking good. But let's go through the match. We get a roll-up by Darby, followed by a roll-up by Nick. We get a bridge by Nick. After that, we get a near fall. We then get a side headlock takeover by Darby, but then Nick gets taken to the outside. We then get the elbow suicida by Darby, but then Nick Wayne ducks and lands onto the barricade. At this point, Nick is shocked, and once we're back in commercial break, Nick Wayne goes for a superplex into a Fisherman Buster. Let me stop right there. That elbow suicida spot by Darby. Bro, Nick ducked and landed on the barricade. Think about that. Darby landed so hard on the barricade. I just how do you recover from that? Holy shit. So once we're back from break, as you guys know, Nick Wayne goes for the superplex into the Fisherman Buster. Nick is on the top. He hits the frog splash, but then Darby escapes. We get a running shotgun dropkick by Darby, but then Darby drags Nick. We get a cover and a kick out. We then get repeated chops by Darby, but then we get a takedown by Darby. Darby then applies the figure four. Nick Wayne reverses it, and usually when a wrestler that's on the figure four reverses the figure four, the pain shifts from the guy that was in the figure four before to the other guy that had and applied the figure four previously. So Nick Wayne reverses it. Darby makes it to the ropes, but then Darby is selling his name. We then get the sunset flip by Nick. Both men collide with a double crossbody. Darby offers a fist bump when both men get up. Both men exchange shots, and when they exchange shots, Darby gets the microphone. And Darby says, "You hit me like an 18-year-old. Hit me harder," which is fucking awesome. Nick hits harder. Darby has his hands in his back. After that, we get a super kick by Nick. We get a cover and a kick out. Christian Cage's music plays. So Christian and Luchasaurus come out. And once we're back from break, of course, Christian is on commentary. Both men are on the top. After that, we get, on the apron, I believe, we get a knee by Nick Wayne, followed by a Hurricane Rana by Darby Allin. Nick goes to the top. We get a frog splash by Nick Wayne. Once we're back into the ring, Nick goes for the cutter. And we get a cover and a near fall. Darby goes to the top, but then Nick is on the top. Nick tries to go for the cutter, but then Darby doesn't go with him. Darby is still on the top, but then Darby is having second thoughts. We get a cover and a kick out, but then he takes Nick, and Nick escapes. Then we get a series of roll-up reversals. We get a roll-up by Nick. After that, he tries to go for Wayne's World, but that was countered. Darby goes for the roll-up, but then we get a near fall. Darby goes for the crossbody, then goes for the crucifix, and then goes for the code red, but we get a kick out after that pin attempt. Darby then captures his arms, and then he stomps the head of Nick Wayne, and Darby wins the match. And Darby advances in the Grand Slam Tournament, facing Roderick Strong. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a very, very, very good match. It's pretty obvious that, Darby Allin was going to get the win. There was no way Nick Wayne was going to get the win whatsoever. I don't think Nick Wayne is ready for that position yet. I don't think he's in the position for any championship title shot anyway. The biggest question I have to ask is, why is he in this tournament? That's just my opinion, but it is what it is. Now, who wins the semifinals between Roderick Strong and Darby Allin? I believe the match is going to be happening tomorrow on Collision. It could go either one of two ways. Roderick Strong gets the win, or Darby Allin gets the win, but I seriously doubt Darby Allin is going to win, to be quite honest with you, because if you think about it, Darby Allin right now is in this current fiasco with Christian Cage, and it clearly showed in this whole match, and clearly Christian Cage is trying to poach Nick Wayne to really join his whole group, whatever you want to call it, and I could easily see Luchasaurus or Christian Cage causing Darby Allin the match, which leads to Roderick Strong, who is the heel, to advance in the finals of the tournament next week on Dynamite. And the finals will eventually be Roderick Strong versus Samoa Joe in order for them to win the whole tournament. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But interestingly, this was not a bad match. And overall thoughts on Dynamite, I thought Dynamite was a great show. I don't want to say it was a statement show because I said that about All Out. But we had progression of stories. We had new stories being told, and we really have a lot of things going on. We have Grand Slam coming up. We also have WrestleDream, and we also have Full Gear, which has been announced that's going to be taking place at the Kia Forum. So it's going to be very exciting to see at the end of the day. But a lot of stuff going on right now in AEW. Of course, they're focused on a new direction because CM Punk is no longer with the company, and I think that is the best way to handle things. And with new stories being told and you developing your particular cast of characters with all the wrestlers that you currently have, I think you have the possible chance of really putting out a much better product than you have been. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that's AEW Dynamite from September 6th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications to be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later for the SmackDown review. Peace.